Got it.
All right, President Biden's allies believe the president, quote, stuck the landing and delivered at his NATO press conference despite moments like this.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
No joke. Joe Concha is a Fox News contributor, and Joe joins us now. It's shocking to no one that the media wasted absolutely no time beginning the resuscitation effort of one Joe Biden. Yeah. After 2 whole weeks of asking questions, let's take a watch at that resuscitation effort. Watch.
Why haven't they had him doing a lot more of these? That really is about as comfortable as he's going to get.
There was a moment at the beginning where he said Vice President Trump instead of Vice President Harris, but he did have lengthy answers on subject areas that he knows very well.
I think it's fair to say there were obviously some verbal missteps. There were some periods of haltingness, but also periods of genuinely impressive command and fluency.
He is not only strong on foreign policy, he is just fundamentally right on foreign policy.
So give some credit where credit is due. It was a solid performance, except for one flood.
Wow, Joe, your reaction. And once it is basically official that Biden's not going anywhere, is that the end of the tough questions of Joe Biden?
Tough questions.
Yeah.
Last night.
Quote unquote.
These reporters, again, were handpicked for a reason. He had a list of reporters to call on. I didn't hear questions around, for instance, I'll read them for you, actually, because these are questions that I would have asked, okay? How can you, Mr. President, not have a cabinet meeting since October, 9 months, when the world is seemingly on fire? I would think that would be a pretty good question. There wasn't one question about Biden's refusal to release his medical records. Not one question about a Parkinson's doctor visiting the White House on several occasions. Do you have a neurological condition or disease, sir? Would have been a pretty good question to ask. Not one question about, by the way, the cost of living in this country being up 20%. Not one on inflation. Is that incredible? Number one issue in the election. You finally get this guy to a press conference and no one asked that question. Not one question about gas prices up 50%. Not one question about 10 million immigrants coming into this country illegally, including hundreds on the FBI terror watch list. Not one question about Hunter Biden now apparently being the unofficial chief of staff to the president of the United States. So you add it all up, and yes, I guess he stuck the landing like a Boeing plane. When you consider what we saw last night with all those gaffes, I'm sorry. If this is the bar, which is basically a speed bump, then great. He passed it. Now, here's the bad news for Democrats at this point, guys, okay? He did well enough in the MSNBC world where he now can say, see, I got this. And now Democrats can't say you got to leave because he'll say, look, I did fine during that press conference. What else you got?
Yeah, Trump absolutely won last night.
Trump won last night. Thank you.
Listen, on that point, one Democrat lawmaker said that this press conference was the worst possible outcome for his party unless you were Hunter Biden and need a pardon. And the suggestion there is that he did well enough to prolong his candidacy moving forward. There was one question that was notable. The answer was even more so. The reporter here is asking about Kamala Harris.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
No one's saying that. No poll says that. Well, somebody in his campaign might want to show him this NBC News report that says several of President Joe Biden's closest allies, including 3 people who are directly involved in efforts to reelect him, told NBC News they now see his chances of winning as 0. And the likelihood of him taking down fellow Democrat candidates is growing. He needs to drop out, one Biden campaign official said. He will never recover from this. This is coming from inside his own campaign, Joe.
If he stays in the race, it's over.
Okay, I always want to do that. Like, why does Biden do the whisper thing? I'm not quite sure. He is down in North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. He is tied in states like New Mexico, New Hampshire, New Jersey. Pick your new state, right? Maine, Minnesota, Virginia. He's not nimble enough to defend all of those states and win back those swing states. So right now, Donald Trump is looking like your 47th president. We still have 114 days to go. But you tell me what changes on the ground in terms of inflation, in terms of all these things that made him unpopular before the debate in the first place, guys.
Before we let you go, got to get your thoughts on this quickly.
Okay.
A Washington Post op-ed says the following: as a result, viewers of Fox News understood the president's condition better than our audiences, which ought to be a huge wake-up call for us. Quickly, 10 seconds. Will that wake-up call be heeded?
Of course it will not, right? We have eyesight, we have hearing, and we have sanity, and that's why we covered the president's cognitive decline. It's not a very complicated story to cover, yet now everybody's catching up, acting like, oh, we were so surprised. No surprise. You purposely ignored it. Stop it with the sleepwalking nonsense.
Yeah, the lab leak theory was a conspiracy until it was right. Hunter Biden's laptop was a conspiracy until it was right. And Joe Biden's cognitive issues were also a conspiracy until they are right. Joe, thank you so much.
Sticking the landing like an Airbus over there, Concha. Nice work.
Oh, no.
That was a good one, I admit.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.